I was reborn as my husband's mistress. Now I'm the one betraying him. The scent of smoke choked my lungs as I lay sprawled on the shattered marble of the throne room. Blood, my blood, spread beneath me, seeping into the cracks of the floor like the roots of some twisted, dying tree. The high windows, once a masterpiece of stained glass, gaped open to the storm outside, the rain mixing with ash as it hissed against the stone. The cold wind howled through the broken arches, carrying the stench of burning wood, scorched flesh, and betrayal. My body refused to move. I could barely lift my head. Each breath tasted of iron, thick and sharp on my tongue. The world blurred at the edges, dark and red, as if the castle itself bled with me. And then, I saw him. Kalen. He stepped through the wreckage like a ghost, his dark hair plastered to his forehead, his fine tunic torn and stained. His sword hung at his side, forgotten, useless now. His eyes. Oh, those eyes. Once, they had looked at me with warmth, with love. Now they were hollow, ringed with shadows, and filled only with regret. Arden. He whispered. My name on his lips was softer than the storm's cry. He stood above me so close I could have reached out, if my arm would only obey, and touched him, reminded him of the vows he had broken. But he didn't kneel. He didn't offer his hand. He didn't even try to save me. He turned away. I watched him walk toward the shattered doors, his figure swallowed by the night. The last thing I heard was the echo of his boots on the wet stone. And then even that was gone. The cold crept in. It numbed the pain, the fire in my belly where the sword had struck. It numbed everything but the fury in my heart. Fury at him. At Kalen. At the man who had promised me forever, but given his passion to another. Fury at her. Liris. The woman who had smiled in my face, who had whispered lies in my ear and stolen everything I loved. If I had the strength, I would have screamed her name. But the darkness claimed my voice before I could. And then, the world shifted. I felt it, the tear between flesh and soul. A pull, like being dragged through ice, through fire, through nothingness. A voice, ancient, soft as silk, yet heavy as stone, whispered through the void. Let hatred bind. Let the mirror turn. Let the soul find its enemy's face. The legend. The curse of the mirror soul. I had heard it once, as a child, a bedtime story meant to frighten. But this was no story. The cold was gone. The pain was gone. There was only that voice, and the weight of my own rage, my grief, my endless gnawing betrayal. And then, light. A room. I smelled rose oil and lavender, thick and cloying, nothing like the burned air of the throne room. I blinked against the golden glow of candlelight. My limbs felt strange, lighter, alien. My heart raced. No, not mine. Someone else's heart, beneath someone else's skin. I sat up, trembling, my fingers brushing silk sheets. The mirror across the chamber caught my eye. And there she was, Liris. Her face, delicate, perfect, framed by dark curls, lips curved in that same infuriating pout that had driven Kalen mad with desire. But it was me, my gaze, my soul behind those treacherous eyes. I stared at the reflection, horror twisting my gut. My breath hitched, too high, too soft. I raised a hand, her hand, and touched the glass. No. No, no, no. I was Liris. And I was alive. The scent was the first thing that struck me, heavy, sweet, suffocating. Rose oil, amber, and something sharper beneath, like spoiled wine left too long in the sun. I gagged, pressing a hand to my lips. Even my touch felt wrong. Slender fingers tipped with painted nails, soft skin that had never known a sword's grip. I stumbled out of the bed, my legs shaking beneath the weight of silk nightclothes that clung to this new body. The room swam before me. A riot of gold and crimson, velvet curtains, gilded mirrors, furniture carved with flowers and cherubs, garish, tasteless. This wasn't my chamber. This was hers. I caught my reflection again, Liris's reflection, in the tall mirror near the bed. Dark curls tumbled over narrow shoulders, framing a heart-shaped face with full lips and high cheekbones. Her lips, her cheekbones. Mine. Now. I raised my hands, staring at them as if they might dissolve. Smaller than mine had been. Too delicate. I turned them, palms up, and saw a beauty mark I knew wasn't mine. The skin smelled faintly of the cloying oils. Even that was foreign. My voice. I whispered, and froze at the sound. Liris's voice. Softer, higher, with a lilt I'd always found false. Now, it was mine. Panic clawed at my throat. My heart thundered. Not with this body's rhythm, but with my own terror, my soul's rebellion. I wanted to scream, to tear at this borrowed flesh, to wake from this nightmare. But the memory of the throne room stopped me. The cold, the blood. Kaelin walking away. No, this was no nightmare. This was my second chance, or my curse. I drew a shuddering breath, tasting the perfume-laden air. I couldn't let anyone see the truth. If I survived as Arden, perhaps I could survive as Liris. The door creaked open before I could steel myself. Kaelin stepped inside. He looked older than the last time I'd seen him, though it had been mere hours or a lifetime. His hair was damp, pushed back from his face. His tunic was dark, severe, unadorned. His eyes. Gods, those eyes. Deep, gray, rimmed in shadows. The eyes that had once looked at me with tenderness. Now they were hard as winter's stone. His gaze raked over me, cold and distant. "You're awake," he said. No warmth, no concern. I tried to answer, but my throat tightened. "I suppose I shouldn't be surprised. You always did have a knack for surviving what should have killed you." His lip curled, the faintest trace of bitterness beneath his calm facade. I clutched the bedpost, my nails, Liris's nails, digging into the polished wood. "Kaelin?" I breathed. His name tasted strange on Liris's tongue. He flinched. A barely there motion. But I saw it. And my heart twisted, with anger, with grief, with longing. "Don't," he said sharply. "Don't speak my name as if you have any right to it." I swallowed hard, forcing down the storm inside me. "You're only here because it suits me," Kaelin went on, his voice low, deadly. "The court watches. The alliances are fragile. Until I have no further use for you, you'll play your part, nothing more." Every word was a knife, carving deeper into the hollow where my heart used to be. I nodded. Because what else could I do? His gaze lingered a moment longer, as if searching for something in my face. I felt the weight of it. The ghost of what we'd been. And I hated that some part of me still wanted him to see me, to know me, even now. "Stay out of my sight," he said finally. "And try not to embarrass yourself. Or me." He turned, his cloak sweeping behind him, and strode from the room. The door shut with a soft click. I sank to my knees, the silk pooling around me, the stifling scent of roses filling my lungs, and I wept. For the woman I'd been, for the monster I'd become, and for the man who'd once loved me but would never see me again. The great hall glittered with candlelight, the polished marble floors reflecting gold and crimson like pools of molten metal. Laughter echoed off high, arched ceilings. The music of lutes and viols swelled, weaving a fragile veil over the tension that hummed beneath every word, every glance exchanged across goblets of wine. I stood at the edge of it all, draped in Liris's finery, the silk clinging to a body that still felt foreign to me. A mask upon a mask. And I played my part. "Smile," I reminded myself. And so I did. Though my lips trembled, I spoke in soft tones, I laughed where I should, I lowered my gaze when appropriate, but inside, I watched. I listened. I learned. These people, courtiers, envoys, nobles, they circled one another like wolves in silk. Their alliances shifted like sand, their words honeyed lies. And, in the heart of it all, Kaelin, my husband, my jailer. He did not look at me. Not once. His attention belonged to diplomats, to military men, to anything and anyone that wasn't me. But once, only once, as he passed behind me, his hand brushed my bare shoulder. A fleeting touch, accidental or not, I couldn't tell. But the heat of it seared through the silken skin to my very soul. My breath caught. I turned. But he was already gone, his back rigid beneath his dark cloak, his head held high as if nothing had happened. That night, I fled the hall the first chance I had. I wandered the quieter corridors, hidden alcoves where shadows gathered thick as secrets. The castle I had once called home now felt like a stranger, familiar and alien all at once. It was there I met him, sitting on the edge of a balcony, half shrouded in moonlight, a goblet dangling from one long-fingered hand. Sable hair, silver-threaded, tousled by the breeze. Eyes sharp as a blade's edge, watching me as if he'd known I would come. "Lady Liris," he greeted, with a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. "Silas," I returned, though my voice nearly failed me. He rose, graceful as a cat, and inclined his head. "Strange, isn't it, how the air is clearer out here? Almost as if the walls themselves smother us." I said nothing. Words felt dangerous. He studied me in the pale light. "You seem changed." I forced a laugh. "The war changes everyone." He stepped closer, and the moon caught the glint of mischief. Or was it menace? In his gaze. Perhaps. Or perhaps some masks slip while others are donned anew. My heart thudded in my chest. He was too clever. Too observant. "I see what others overlook," he said softly, leaning closer. "And what I see, Lady Liris, is a woman playing a dangerous game. Be careful the mask doesn't become the face." Before I could answer, he bowed and disappeared into the shadows, his steps silent as falling snow. The night offered no rest. I prowled the chambers of the keep until I found myself before a door I hadn't intended to seek. Her chamber. My chamber, now. Inside, the cloying scent of rose oil lingered still. I lit a candle with shaking hands, casting trembling light over the room's vanity, the ornate wardrobe, and the writing desk. A key, hidden beneath a jewelry box. A drawer, locked, but now mine to open. I found it there. The book, bound in soft leather, its pages marked by a hand I recognized now as well as my own. Liris's diary. I read, and with every word, the pieces fell into place, forming a picture of treachery I had feared, and yet could scarcely believe. Promised them the gates. They swore Kaelin would be spared. I deserve better than a mistress's life. When the castle falls, so shall Arden. I sank into the chair, the diary trembling in my hands. The room seemed to close around me, heavy with the weight of truth. She hadn't just taken my husband. She had taken my world, bartered it for power, and left me to die. And now, I wore her face. Her sins, but not her fate. No. That, I would decide. The rose garden had once been my refuge, when I was Arden. Now, beneath Liris's skin, it felt like a graveyard. The hedges were overgrown, the paths cracked and hidden beneath weeds. The roses, once crimson and white jewels beneath the sun, now sagged on broken stems, there, petals browned and curling like the edges of burnt parchment. The air was thick with the sweet sick rot of dying blooms. I walked the path alone, the hem of Liris's gown trailing in the dirt. The moon hung low and heavy, casting silver light that danced on the stagnant pools where fountains no longer flowed. "Lady Liris?" The voice startled me. I turned to see her. Eliana, my old handmaid, my loyal shadow in another life. She stood half-hidden beneath a twisted arch of thorns, a basket at her hip, as if she had truly come to gather what few petals remained. "Eliana," I said, and the name felt strange on my tongue. She hesitated, her brow furrowed, her gaze sharp despite her soft features. "You seem different, my lady." I forced a smile, though my heart lurched painfully. Grief changes us all. But she did not look convinced. Her eyes searched mine as if seeking the woman she had served, and failed. "Be careful in the garden tonight," she said at last, her voice low. "Not all thorns are on the roses." Before I could answer, she dipped into a curtsy and vanished into the shadows, leaving me alone with my ghosts. I didn't realize how long I wandered, lost in thought, until I heard the sound of boots on stone. A flicker of torchlight. Kaelin. He came unsteady down the garden path, a goblet in hand, his dark cloak trailing behind him. His hair was loose, his collar open, and in the flickering light his face looked gaunt, haunted. I shrank back behind a crumbling pillar, watching him. He stopped near one of the dry fountains, tilted his head back, and drained the goblet's contents. His hands shook. "You would have hated me for this, Arden," he muttered. His voice carried on the night air, ragged, raw. "But what's left to hate? There's nothing of me worth saving." My breath caught. He was speaking to the night, to the roses, to himself. Not knowing I heard, not knowing I stood so close. He sank down onto the fountain's edge, burying his face in his hands. "I let them tear it all down, let you slip through my fingers. And for what? A lie? A fleeting pleasure? I destroyed us all. I wanted to step out, to speak, to tell him. But I couldn't. I was a ghost in another woman's body. And so I watched, my heart breaking, my resolve fracturing. Touching, isn't it?" The voice came from behind me, smooth as silk. I spun to find Silas leaning against the pillar, arms crossed, watching Kaelin with a thoughtful expression. "I wonder how often he comes out here, talking to the dead," Silas mused. "A man haunted by regret is easy to manipulate. Remember that." I bristled. "And why would you tell me this?" He smiled, slow and knowing. "Because you're no fool, Lady Liris, and I think we want the same thing, which is..." His eyes glinted in the moonlight. "Survival, power, perhaps even a little revenge." The wind stirred the garden, and the moon's reflection quivered on the black surface of the stagnant pool. I saw myself in it. Liris's face staring back at me, but my eyes, my confusion, my fury. Silas's gaze softened, just slightly. "You don't have to fight alone. Not when I can be of use to you." I hesitated. His offer was a trap, it had to be. But was it a trap I could afford to ignore? Kaelin's figure slumped by the fountain, a man undone by his own sins. I felt the pull of old love, old hatred, the tangled knot that was my heart. "Think on it," Silas said, and melted into the shadows, leaving me with the dead roses, the ruined man, and the war raging inside me. The great hall was alive with music and light, but beneath the surface it seethed with treachery. Candles flickered in their sconces, casting shadows that danced like specters along the carved walls. The air was thick with the scents of wine, roasted meats and perfume, but beneath it all I could taste danger, bitter as wormwood. I moved through the crowd as Liris would, smiling, nodding, letting the courtiers' false pleasantries wash over me. Every glance felt weighted, every word a double edge. I was learning their games, but tonight, the stakes felt higher. A servant approached with a silver tray, goblets gleaming in the candlelight. I accepted one, fingers brushing cool metal. The wine smelled sweet, inviting. But as I lifted it, I saw the flicker of a hand signal between two men near the dais. A glance exchanged, too quick, too practiced. My skin prickled. "Kaelin." His name was a whisper on my lips as I scanned the room for him. He stood near the far wall, speaking with a foreign envoy, his posture rigid, his eyes darting toward me, and then he moved. Fast. Before I could sip, his hand shot out, knocking the goblet from mine. The wine splattered across the marble like spilled blood. Gasps rose from the assembly. The music faltered. Kaelin's fingers closed around my wrist, firm, unyielding. "Are you a fool?" he hissed, dragging me from the center of the room. The hall blurred as he led me out, through a side door, into the quiet of a shadowed corridor. My heart pounded, my breath came in ragged bursts, not from fear, no, from something hotter, sharper. He released me, turning away, hands clenched at his sides. "You could have died," he said, voice low, hoarse. "And would that matter to you?" The words escaped before I could stop them, bitter and trembling. He froze. Slowly he turned back. And in the dim light I saw the storm in his eyes. Anger, yes, but more. Guilt. Grief. "Don't speak to me of what matters," he said, and his hand came up as if to touch my face, then fell away. But I felt the pull between us, the tension strung tight as a drawn bow. And when he stepped closer, I didn't move. His mouth found mine, sudden, fierce, desperate. The kiss was fire and ice, punishment and plea. His arms came around me, and for a breath, I forgot who I was, who I wasn't. Then reason returned like a blade to the gut. I pushed him back, my hands trembling. His breath came fast, his gaze burning into mine. "This means nothing," he said, as if trying to convince himself. And perhaps it did, but it left me shaken to my core. Later, alone in my chambers, I paced, restless. The night's events gnawed at me, the attempt on my life, Kalen's touch, the taste of him still on my lips. I needed answers. I found them where I knew I would, in the archives, among the records of the court. A document, tucked between treaties and decrees, the petition for annulment, his signature at the bottom, the date, the day I died. My vision blurred with tears I refused to shed. So this was the truth. He had planned to cast me aside, to be rid of me at last. I gripped the edge of the table until my knuckles whitened. My hands shook, from fury, from heartbreak, from the cruel twist of fate that bound me to this man still. The web of lies grew tighter around me, and I was no longer sure who was the spider, and who was the prey. The tower room was silent except for the creak of the ancient wood beneath my steps, and the soft hiss of the wind at the narrow window. The scent of old paper, of leather bindings and dust, filled the air, thick, almost suffocating, but somehow comforting. Here, in this forgotten place, the weight of the castle above felt distant. I traced my fingers along the spines of the books that lined the walls. Treatises on history, records of the realm, tomes of forgotten lore. My hand trembled, my heart thundered. I wasn't sure if I'd come seeking refuge, or damnation. A sound behind me, soft, deliberate. "I thought I might find you here, Silas." He stepped from the shadows, his long coat brushing the floor, his eyes glinting in the dim light of a single flickering lantern. There was something feline about him, the way he moved, the way he watched. "Couldn't sleep?" he asked, voice low, almost gentle. I let out a bitter laugh, hollow in this hollow place. "Sleep? That luxury left me long ago." He came closer, his gaze never leaving mine. "Something weighs on you. I see it every time you look at him. Every time you look at yourself." I hesitated. The truth burned in my throat, begging release. I could no longer carry it alone. "What would you say," I whispered, "if I told you that I am not who I appear to be?" His brow lifted slightly, but he didn't speak, didn't mock, didn't question. Just waited. So, I told him. The words poured out, of my death, of the curse, of waking in Liris's body, of the torment of wearing my enemy's face, of the agony of Kalen's touch, of the betrayal that haunted my every step. When at last I fell silent, the room seemed to hold its breath. Silas studied me, expression unreadable. Then slowly he reached out, brushed a curl from my cheek, the lightest touch, and yet it sent a shiver through me. "I believe you." 2 words, and with them, the crushing weight of loneliness eased, just a little. "Why?" I asked, voice breaking. A faint smile curved his lips. "Because only a soul that has known ruin looks at the world as you do. And because I too know what it means to wear a mask." The flicker of the lantern caught the shadow in his eyes, the secrets he didn't share. "Will you keep my secret?" He stepped back, inclining his head. "I will guard it as my own. But understand this, my lady. You are a storm now, and storms can reshape the world, or destroy it. Choose wisely." His words should have chilled me, but instead, I felt a strange pull toward him, as if in this game of shadows, he alone could see the real me. For a heartbeat we stood there, caught between confession and temptation, between ally and adversary. Then he turned, his coat whispering against the floor. "When the time comes," he said, pausing at the door, "know that I will stand beside you, or behind you, dagger in hand, depending on your choices." And then he was gone, leaving me with the scent of old books, the taste of secrets on my tongue, and the first ember of something I hadn't felt in so long, hope. The hall lay in ruin. The great banners of the house, once proud and bright, now hung in tatters, blackened by smoke and stained with blood. The marble floor was slick with it, dark pools where men had fallen, where loyalty had bled out with life. The windows stood shattered, letting in the cold wind that carried the stench of death. I walked through it all in silence. My steps echoed in the emptiness, the sound swallowed by the vastness of the destruction. And then, I saw him. Kalen. He stood alone at the far end of the hall, near the dais where a throne had once been. His sword lay broken at his feet. His cloak was torn, his face streaked with ash and blood. But it was his eyes that struck me. Hollow, lost, the eyes of a man who had nothing left. He turned as I approached, as if he had known I would come. "This is the end then," he said, his voice barely more than a breath. I stopped a few paces from him, looking at the man I had once loved, the man who had destroyed me. And yet now, standing there among the ashes of his kingdom, he seemed so small. So human. "No, Kalen," I said, my voice steady, calm. "The end came long ago. You just didn't see it." His gaze flickered, searching my face, Liris's face. And I saw it there, confusion, weariness, the last flicker of pride dying. "Why are you here?" he asked, hoarse. "To mock me? To see what's left of the man you once craved?" I took a slow breath, tasting the smoke on the air. "I'm here," I said, "because it's time you knew the truth." And so, I told him. Of my death. Of the curse. Of the soul he had betrayed, reborn in the body of the woman who helped destroy him. The silence after was deafening. He stared at me as if seeing me for the first time. His lips parted, but no words came. His knees buckled, and he sank to the floor, hands braced on the blood-slick stone. "Arden," he whispered. And there it was, my name on his lips, filled with all the sorrow and regret he had never spoken. I felt no triumph, no fury, only emptiness. "I tried to hate you," he said, his voice breaking. "But I hated myself more." I stood over him, the ruin of a man, the ruin of a kingdom. And I felt free. At last. The wind bit at my cheeks as I climbed the last stretch of the mountain path. The castle, his castle, lay far below, no more than a scar upon the earth now. Smoke rose from its crumbled towers, gray fingers clawing at the paling sky. I didn't look back. The air was sharp and clean up here, the scent of pine and frost chasing away the stench of battle and betrayal. Each step felt lighter, as if with every mile I shed another chain, another weight I had carried too long. When I reached the crest, I paused. The valley stretched out before me, vast and silent, touched by the first blush of dawn. The sky was streaked with gold and rose, the promise of a new day breaking over the broken world I left behind. Behind me I heard the soft crunch of boots on stone. Silas. I didn't need to turn to know it was him. I could feel the weight of his gaze, the quiet understanding that passed between us without words. "You won't stay?" His voice was low, carried gently on the wind. "No." My answer was certain, calm. "There's nothing left for me there." He stood a few paces away, watching as I stared out at the dawn. "The world beyond these mountains is dangerous," he said. "You'll need allies." I smiled. Just barely. "And will you be one?" He hesitated. "Perhaps. Or perhaps I'll simply watch, as I do now." I turned then, met his eyes. Dark, thoughtful, filled with secrets I would never fully know. And yet, for the first time I felt no fear of them. "Goodbye, Silas," I said softly. He inclined his head, and I saw, just for a heartbeat, something almost like respect in his gaze. Without another word, I turned and began my descent, leaving him and the ruins of my past behind. Far below, I knew Kalen remained, alone on the ashes of his kingdom, the weight of his choices his only companion now. I felt no triumph in that. Only peace. The sun crested the horizon, and the light spilled over the peaks, warm and golden, touching my face, my hands, as if the world itself welcomed me back to it. For the first time in so long, I felt light, free, and as I walked toward whatever future awaited me, I breathed in the dawn and let the past fade with the night.